Welcome back to When Sports Met Sarcasm. Saratoga Meet Preview, where we go through everything here. We're going to go through the melon turf course, the sprints, the routes. We'll go through the inner turf course. We'll even go through the rails, since the rails are going to be pushed out on the inner. The Wilson Chute, probably the most interesting thing in racing at Saratoga, if you're a bettor. Big prices. We'll also go through the weather. We already said the rail. How about the CAW stuff at NYRA? We got a statement from NYRA, and I'll take back everything that I said bad about them after this statement. Stake schedules, everything Toga.
Toga! Toga! Toga!
Toga, toga.
Toga! 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 Toga!
Well, we don't got a lot of time to waste. This is going to be a big show. So let's get it started. Go ahead, Rosalind.
Welcome to When Sports Met Sarcasm, the media that not only informs but entertains. Join myself, Pete Rose, and the analyst of all analysts as we launch into Saratoga Summer 26. Sit back, relax, subscribe, and enjoy.
All right, let's start talking some jockeys and trainers, and we'll start with the trainers first. How about Phil Bauer? Power. Now, I'm comparing him here to the leading trainers of the last year's meet. Phil Bauer has almost reached auto bet status at Saratoga Racecourse, especially on the turf. I mean, just look at his numbers here with 3-year-olds. 9 starts, 44% winners. Maiden claiming, 7 starts, 3 winners. 86% in the money. Sprints, routes, Phil Bauer has basically reached auto play status. But he doesn't have a lot of starters, so you got to make sure you look for Phil when he comes over from Kentucky. Let's see what's next. Mark Casse, probably one of my favorite trainers. Look at this third statement here. This guy's great. The filly that won is a little thing, Casse said. I said to the valet, I can't see over many when I saddle. You know, they are not very big if I can see over them. But if size meant anything, a rabbit could not outrun a cow. Classic Mark Casse. But like he says, if you read these quotes, it's all about intent for Mark Casse. He knows which ones he should be bringing. He knows which ones he shouldn't be bringing. And if you really want to get into it, but then the ROI will get hit, is see when he reach out to one of the Ortiz brothers. How about a quick did you know from last year? 2025 Saratoga 2-year-olds. Amelia Green had 18 2-year-old starters compared to Steve Asmussen's 12. We all know that that's probably keeping some in Kentucky because of the purse structure change last year or 2 years ago. But it's also a good did you know. Let's take a look at the 2025 Saratoga Racecourse final trainer stats. This is just a simple graph on NYRA.com, but when you highlight positives and negatives, the graph can kind of come to life. Like we saw Phil Bauer there on the bottom. Everything's great. How about Jenna Antonucci there, 5 from the bottom? Look all the way over to the far right. You got routes and sprints. Awesome in routes. Brutal in sprints. And just go through this. This is something that I keep handy just to see if it's a route, if it's a sprint. Like, look at Michael Trombetta right above Jenna Antonucci. Holy moly. Basically, everything that was a sprint. 50% in sprints, winning percentage. 90% in the money. Stakes, 2 out of 4. The only thing he didn't do well in was allowance races and routes. So, Michael Trombetta, allowance races and routes, probably not what you want to do. Tom Amos here. We all know that now Kenan LaRose took over for him. Still excellent in sprints. Excellent in sprints. Someone that you want to take advantage of. Let's move on here. Let's take a look at some jockeys. We all know the Ortiz brothers. We all know Pratt. We all know all the jockeys. But what I kind of wanted to see here was this person on the turf. Last year when I was there watching him, he was aggressive out of the gate. Didn't get any winners. He gets all long shot mounts. He has had more live mounts this season. Hasn't been doing that great. But I'll tell you what, on the turf sprints, the outer course, what's wrong with Chris Elliott?
There's a lot of things really wrong with Phil.
Well, if she's a refined lady, and I'm sure she is.
Not that Chris Elliott. This Chris Elliott. Long shot jockey Chris Elliott. He is aggressive out of the gate. He does maintain good forward position. If you watch the last year's last weekend meet, I believe it was the Monday of Labor Day when he brought in, I think it was Brooklyn Dance. think it was 47-1. He finishes well. He's not a bad he's not a bad turf sprint rider. That's where you want to excel with him. All right, let's move on. All right, let's move on to CAW and takeout. And before we forget, we are always joined by Rosalind and Major League Baseball's hit king, Pete Rose. Now, let's talk some takeout and computer-assisted wagering. Here's a good graphic about the takeout and about CAWs. So CAW, NYRA considers wagering to be CAW activity when that speed exceeds 6 bets per second. Okay? As we see up here, February 5th, NYRA will require CAW activity to cease at 1 minute to post in all wagering pools, not previously subject to high-speed wagering restrictions. That does not affect the win pool. The win pool was already set and established as a 2-minute cutoff, and it will remain a 2-minute cutoff. Now, that means at 1 minute, wagering from CAW activity, 6 bets per second, will cease at 1 minute. Also, takeout percentages for certain wagers. High takeouts on the pick 6, high takeouts on trifectas, superfectas, grand slams, pick 3s, and pick 4s. For people that know, the late pick 5 is retail wagering only, so they exclude the CAWs. As we can show there, the win pool, the 2-minute cutoff. So the takeout is just simply the percentage of each dollar that the track keeps for themselves and then lets the players play amongst the rest of the cash. So now that we have established that, and I've been an opponent of NYRA on a lot of tracks bending over backwards for a lot of the CAW activity, but it's not going anywhere. But we did reach out, Pete, to NYRA, and NYRA did get back to us with a statement. So let's air the statement for everyone now.
We need them computers.
Well, how would we survive?
Because it is so much money. It's so much money.
So much money.
So much money. So much money.
In the pool.
All right, Marshall Graham, owner, breeder, CAW player. He did a symposium back in 2023 talking about all the CAW stuff, all the changes in racing. But one of the things that I wanted to point out to everyone, he says they are using those odds to bet late, and that is what's changing the odds. The teams are good in the win pool. They are exceptional in more complicated wagers, pick 4s, pick 5s, trifectas, superfectas. So I don't know about you, but if someone in tennis has a exceptional forehand and a good backhand, you want to attack the good backhand. So we also showed before this that the win pool cuts off at 2 minutes, and it has one of the lower takeouts. So if they're telling you they're good in the win pool, but they're unbelievable at everything else, don't forget your win pool wagers. The last thing you want to be is the guy who singles a pick 4 and you hit your single of 8-1 and you don't bet him to win and you lose your pick 4. You don't want to be that person. Now, let's just look at the CAW, the handle, how it's increased with the CAWs and it's decreased with the regular players. Look at this total handle percentage. In 2003, the CAW players were only 8% of total handle. 2023, one out of every $3. Percent increase, 312%. And total handle for the regular peasant, down 66%. So this isn't going anywhere. It's one thing I'm trying to point out. What you need to do is figure out how to adapt or get out. There's only 2 options. So I would take advantage of the win pool. And another thing, I'm not going to show the graphic, but control what's in your control. They have rolling daily doubles, which means you can see probable payouts and will pay payouts. Pick 3s, look for crazy anomalies. Maybe the pick 3 second choice will pay was the 8th choice in the betting. Well, that means the CAWs most likely are hammering that horse. So use everything in your control because you need it. Now, time to not pay the bills. Make sure Rosalind's not sleeping. That's good. All right, time to not pay the bills. Rosalind, earn your keep.
This break in the action is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the sugar drink that has helped increase the risk of type 2 diabetes to over 200 countries. Have a Coke, a tooth decayed smile, and a heightened risk of type 2 diabetes.
All right, let's take a look at the track composition here at Saratoga Racecourse. And for all of you sitting at home right now, you're in luck if you're top layer Sandy Loom handicappers. But here's both turf courses. That's the layout of the composition of the track. But what we're going to focus on here is the sprints. So the sprints are on the outer turf course. The thing I want you to focus on is large fields. Now, we haven't in the recent years gotten a lot of large fields in the turf sprints. When you get large fields, roughly 9 or more, you want to downgrade those far inside posts, 1, 2. And the reason being, you get that collapse effect, like in the Derby. What happens is the horse is coming out of the gate and they collapse down on you. You can have the speed to get out of the gate, but the problem is you're probably going to use yourself up too early. So favor outside post with speed in these races. Probably my most profitable angle. I know Noel Michaels has been speaking about this for years. And I'll even show you a statistic coming up, even though it's 10, 15 years ago, which will shock you. Inner turf, athletic horses that can kind of maneuver around, tight turns, favor the inside horses so they don't get stuck 2, 3, 4 wide around both turns. So the one thing you need to realize about Saratoga Racecourse here is you're going to have to handicap a lot of grass.
A lot of grass.
Green grass. A lot of grass.
Grass. A lot of grass.
Grass.
A lot of grass. And
Grass.
Grass.
there's a lot of green grass.
Grass. Canadian grass.
Maybe you could roll that up and smoke it.
All right, this is just a quick little guide of what we just talked about, something that I have just to figure out posts. If you're stuck between two horses, where maybe one draws might be the decider for you. But what I really wanted to talk about, like I just said here, is the turf sprints. 5.5 furlongs, melon turf course. These are old stats, but we used to get big fields. Now we really don't, but it's starting to kind of come around earlier in the meet so far this year. We've had a couple more fields that have had some bigger fields. 2009, 1 for 43 on the rail, 2 for 45 in 2010, and 1 for 41 in 2011. Bigger fields. It's so hard to be in that post because you don't want to go to the back and then have to try to go through 11 horses. And if you use too much early, it's so hard to hold on for that last half furlong. So remember, one of the most profitable angles ever right here. Turf sprints, large fields, chuck. Adios, amigo, the inside posts. Let's look at these stats from Naira here. So go ahead, look at, we got the track stats at the top left here to show what the favorite is, what the odds are, and what the percentages are at those odds of when they finish in the money or when they win. Obviously, you can look at the dirt sprints, the dirt routes, and figure out what's the best way of leading, tracking, or closing. And then here on the bottom, the where favorites won and where favorites lost. Maiden claiming races, a lot of favorites win because so many people drop horses in to win. Now, where I want to focus on here is where favorites lost. Dirt Chute. We were going to look at the Dirt Chute. I think it's one of the biggest anomalies. I said early on in the opening about how you're getting priced. It's one of the most profitable betting angles right now. And the reason being because it's such an anomaly. So let's get into the Wilson Chute. All right, so the Wilson Chute. The anomaly with the Wilson Chute is you come running out of the starting gate into the turn. So you don't run into the turn, you start in the turn. And as I'm going to show you here, look at here where you start. That's the turn. Look at the DRF graphic here of where you start. You're starting going into a turn. All right, so here's our head-on. I'm going to end up showing you the overhead too, but just to give you a little bit of both here. So as you can see where they break, they have the temporary rail to the inside. You have to break running to be able to get position. And as you can see in the bottom right here graphic, that's the turn. So they're running straight into the turn instead of rounding around the turn. So look at the overhead here. So they have to break straight, as in the number 1 graphic shows. So this is like a perfect start. So they have a total perfect start here. So now as you can see in the second graphic, at some point they have to start going into the turn. And as you can see them now, they're angling themselves into the turn. And in the third graphic, you can see that they've settled their positions. And like usual, when you're straight off in the bat in the first graphic here, and you're in a straight line, at some point, the outside horses are going to have to either go too fast to get in front, or tuck in like we saw the 5, 6, and the 7 do here. All right, here's our post positions. And the reason why I want to show you the Wilson Chute is because think about it this way. Bad posts are usually wide posts because you get stuck wide. But the equalizer is usually speed. So if you have a lot of speed from a 11 post on the turf, and that's your running style, then you can go forward and it negates the bad post. That's why they always say this person always makes their own trips. So the problem here with the Wilson Chute is, which I've noticed, or at least I believe, it doesn't matter if you have speed on the outside. We saw that Brad Cox horse, a 10 horse. He was a little bit of a price that raced that Warp 9 one that we're going to talk about on Stars and Stripes weekend. And he had speed. Outside posts, Wilson Chute, unless you're like Chancelot or something, it's a bad post to be outside with speed. You're better off being like Warp 9 in that race, who was the 9 horse, Warp 9 horse. But he just broke slow because he kind of usually breaks slow. And then just hit the rail and saved ground all the way around. So he wasn't totally disadvantaged because if he was a speed horse, he would have been so wide, he would have threw in the towel probably a furlong and a half before he should have. But that's the wide post. So if you did love the 10 horse and he wasn't a speed horse and you thought he would come from off the pace, which usually isn't the track profile for this race, it's more stalker, speed stalker. Inside post, 4, 5, 6, kind of perfect if you have speed and tracking. But I just wanted to let you know, like the 10 post, even with speed, it seems like a terrible post because you're going to get stuck out wide, as we just shown in those overheads. The one reason I wanted to talk about this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth than I did about other stuff real quick, because like I said, you're getting prices left and right. It hasn't been 2022 was its inception. So it just started. It's only been 3 years of data. Now we're getting prices. And Warp 9 was the 9 horse. So that means he was wide and he still won from there. But the one thing you don't want to do is with the Wilson Chute is you don't want to be handicapping and then be like, oh, Wilson Chute race. Oh, shoot.
Shoot!
Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot.
All right. Look at this graphic. So this is this year. Obviously, with the delay in putting this out, that's the one thing you gain is you get some data from what's already happened so far. So I didn't include the off-turf race, as you can see there. I believe that was Leon Blue. So I wanted to take a look at these bigger prices here and the Wilson Chute. So I went over to attheraces.com. I checked out the stride average, top stride average rate, the top miles per hour, the final miles per hour. So I write all this stuff down. I kind of look and see, if there's any anomalies or if there's any things that look similar. So all of a sudden, I find out Warp 9. First of all, Warp 9 raced in race 10, I believe, that day. That Phileas Fogg won in race 8. So you already knew you might have a live race there. But the one thing I want everyone to focus on in each one of these examples I'm going to give you of those long shots, look at the top final miles per hour of all these horses that had long shot prices. Warp 9, final speed, top final miles per hour, 32.79, top in the race. 12.84 final furlong. Wasn't top, but was right behind Phileas Fogg and ran a top final mile per hour higher. Let's check out Big Brooklyn, big price. I believe this was Katie Davis. So this horse, his previous race was coming out of a 7 furlong race. So came in 5th place, as you can see there. Big Brooklyn came in 5th, green check mark. If you look at his final furlong there, it was 13.61. So if you look on the final speed on the other graphic that's a little bit covered up, next to the green check mark, you can see his final speed was 30.27. And you might be saying, oh, that's not really a top final speed. But it is a little bit misleading because if you look at the other graphic, you can see Internet and Violin, who both had faster final furlongs. But as you can see, Internet started in the very back, and Violin halfway through the race backed up like he wanted to be in the race that was starting in 30 minutes. So you have two horses that really weren't involved the whole race, whereas Big Brooklyn was involved the majority of the race. In his top final miles per hour, 13.61. Still better than the way closers. So Top final miles per hour, sneaky good there, Big Brooklyn. Georgia Magic, coming out of a 9 furlong race. His final furlong there, 13.17. Top final furlong number of anyone in the race. Even though he went wire to wire, he still had the number one or the top final furlong finish, 13.17. So the one thing that you need to look at here is the top final miles per hour. And it's probably because it's an endurance thing, because it's a weird run race. Normally, the one-turn races like at Aqueduct in Gulfstream, they're elongated sprints, meaning you get fast fractions because there's really no breathers because you're just going around one turn, and it's an elongated sprint. Here, it's a position, get yourself positioned around the turn, semi-breather, then sprint home, but still add a mile. So that's giving. And I know that you'll sit here and say like, oh, well, that's just a couple races. And I'll tell you what, even with the data in horse racing, and if you think you have something on your side, it's still gambling.
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 Gamble.
It's not gambling.
Sounds like gambling.
Gambling? Who said anything about gambling?
Gambling, right?
Gamble.
Gambling.
That's all you talk about is gambling, gambling, gambling.
All right, you can't talk about handicap in Saratoga without talking about Mother Nature. How about this? Races off the turf 2025, 33. In 2024, 45 races came off the turf and were run on the main track, probably with turf horses against main track onlys. But if you can get ahead of handicapping off the turf races, you're going to put yourself at a huge advantage. And I'm not going to lie. Think about it this way. Everyone in Saratoga, I think, knows the weather. And it sounds just like this.
It's gonna rain cats and dogs, folks.
The weatherman said it's gonna rain tomorrow.
It's gonna rain.
It's gonna rain.
It's going to rain.
Now let's get into the rails. We already talked once about the rails here. I talked about how the inner turf course, I want to say it's this weekend, will be moving the rails out. The one thing you need to know about when they move the rails out is the circumference of the racetrack is obviously wider. So when the circumference is wider, it's harder to wire a field the further the rails are out. And then when they come down and you can go back onto the inside, focus on those more pristine inside paths that haven't been chewed up by the recent races. Now that's just something you have to do at Saratoga. So now that we know that, let's move on. All right, make sure you subscribe. Let's help out Rosalind. Let's get her another raise. So the next time she asks Pete and I for a raise, we don't have to give her another seat cushion. So make sure you subscribe like these people.
You know,
I'm watching. When sports
Met. Sarcasm.
That's the best horse racing.
Show on television.
All right, Rosalind, no yawning. Earn your keep.
Booking now. Tiger Woods' new driving school, 4 is now open and taking reservations. Be sure to book early because Tiger's license will soon be revoked. Learn how to beat every breathalyzer test, but 0 blood tests. At 4, Tiger doesn't reinvent the wheel. He just turns it into an accident.
All right, let's talk a little bit of giveaways and stake schedule. Not going to spend a lot of time on this, but let's take a look at the giveaways because everyone wants to resell their stuff and go in there and make money off of eBay. So here's your your giveaway schedule. Yeah, Pete, look at that. Jockeys statue the day after the Alabama one. They're there. I wonder if it's taller than you are. All right, how about the stakes? Here's all the stakes, just so you know. I don't want to spend a lot of time in this. Everything got too long anyway. All right, so let's move on. All right, time to wrap up the show. Don't think we forgot about you, Pete. Here's one for Pete.
I bet.
On baseball.
All right, final betting angles. Number 1, find horses who ran at a disadvantaged post previously at this Toga meet and bet them back if they find an advantageous post. Large field, turf sprints. The horse draws the 1, runs bad, comes back a month later at this meet, draws an outside post, or maybe still inside, but a lot less horses in the race. Great angle. Number 2, downgrade the rail and turf sprints with a minimum of 9+ starters. We went through this. It's just the collapse effect. It's been proven for years, but it's almost a good thing. Recently, it hasn't shown because there's just no big fields. Number 3, we're going to look into this one a lot longer coming up. Identify long shots with last race top final miles per hour for the Wilson Chute races. We looked at that. Those were the prices we showed you. So it's not like, you know, they were 3-1 or 2-1. I mean, those are prices. Number 4, bet against favorites with bad post positions. When you look at the form, the first thing you should do is, okay, I see a 5.5 furlong turf sprint. How many horses are in the field? 13, 12. Oh, great. Let's look down towards the rail and see if those are the favorites. Those are the races you want to play. Or vice versa. Maybe there's a big turf favorite who drew real wide and on the melon turf course when the rails are out. Just a lot of things you got to go through. Dirt sprints, wide posts. Here we go. Number 5. Stay within your budget and bet confidently, knowing your material. Saratoga can sniff out any type of insecurities you may have, which is totally true. And that's why you want to be more like these people.
Why does this still seem like gambling to you?
I will win.
I will win this race.
Hey, I'm confident.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
But I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right, that's it for us. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Saratoga Summer 2026. Enjoy it. You still got a month and probably about 2-3 weeks left. So enjoy it. Graveyard of favorites. Saratoga, Toga, everything. Just enjoy it. It's the spa. Everyone's going to be there. So enjoy the spa. Rosalind, make sure you take them out. Everyone put your seatbelts on. Adios, amigos.
My way to the spa now.
Or we could do a day at the spa.
We're going to the spa.
We are at the spa.
No, she's at the spa.
To go to the spa.
We're headed to the spa.
I go to the spa.
Go to the spa.
It's a day at the spa.
Yes, I spent the money at the spa.
Thank you for tuning in to When Sports Met Sarcasm, the media that not only informs but entertains. Bye now.